Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had the entire offseason, and it was a pretty good draft for us. We did have to make some tougher decisions, though, in terms of letting go of certain players, but we were able to bring back Narena. The main reason why is because our first round pick that we had, we were anticipating him to be a bit of a higher overall, but he actually wasn't that high of an overall. He was only a 73, so basically we gave him an AHL contract, and he hopefully should be in the NHL within a few seasons, but we decided to re-sign Narena because of that, or else our defensive core would have been pretty weak. So he will be back for another 3 years, which is nice, and I'm excited to have him on board for those 3 years, because I think that means for sure probably he will retire as an Albuquerque Alien. And I also just realized that his potential as well has dropped in just like last episode, because when we were looking at last episode, we saw that Ristolainen dropped to an exact top 6, and we saw that Stubwitz dropped to an exact top 6. Well, it also seems like Narena has dropped to an exact top 6 defenseman, so all three of those guys could literally retire within a 2-year span, which is kind of insane. So hopefully we don't lose them anytime soon, but there is a chance that our team is going to start losing some of these guys that have been with our team for a long time, which is kind of scary. But we should have a pretty good roster going into the season still, because Hutton should be jumping to the NHL. Our defensive core, I wouldn't say is like the strongest defensive core in the world, but it's definitely not that bad. We do have the decent goaltending as well. We do have a 3-headed monster, Gianta, Mathers, and Harakala. There is a chance that one of these guys is going to be a healthy scratch to start the year as a backup goaltender, but we probably could alternate between the season if there's like injuries, obviously, and if one goalie is playing not bad, maybe we take one out and put in Harakala instead. We obviously won't be scratching Gianta anytime soon, but we would probably alternate between the two of these guys, and there is probably a good chance at the end of this season, though, Harakala would leave the team regardless, but we do have 3 different goaltenders, which is kind of nice, so we could kind of alternate between them a little bit. And then our forward group is pretty damn solid still too, which is also great to see. It is a bit different, like I said, than last year. We did let go of Hennessy, which was maybe a little bit of a controversial player to let go of, but we do still have a pretty damn balanced offensive core. So I think this team is good enough to make it back to the playoffs this season, but obviously the question just is really how long are they going to be a playoff team for and all that type of thing. But anyways, before we get into simulating more of the season and seeing how our team does, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into this season sim and see if this team can make it back to the postseason or not. So the first comment is from Michael Dos, who says, I agree Narena needed to come back, as I was expecting a drafted defender to be around 78 to 79 rating, and yeah, that was basically what I was thinking as well. I was expecting him to be like an actual NHL ready defenseman, where it turns out he's actually more closer to like being like a 1 to 2 year out defenseman. So it does kind of suck that he's a little bit of a lower overall, but at the same time, at least we have ourselves a nice right-handed defensive prospect that could take over if we do lose Narena within these few years that guy is developing for. The next comment is from Sour Taco, says, I'm totally okay with the Narena contract since the defenseman you drafted won't be ready for a couple seasons. This way he's almost certain to retire with the Aliens. And yeah, that's also my thought process, is I wanted Narena to retire with our team because he has been here for a long time, and he's basically, I would say he's the defensive version of like Stowitz and Ristolainen. There's a chance that we could lose also Kolars in the next few years as well to retirement. Like, we are getting to that stage where we're becoming an older team. At one point, we were a pretty young team, but now we're kind of getting to that stage where we're going to start to lose guys, which kind of sucks. But that's kind of the way the cookie crumbles when you get to this part of franchise mode. Like, we only have, I think, another 8 seasons left of this, including this season. So it is kind of insane that we're getting to that stage already where we're going to have to start wrapping up players' careers and also wrapping up this franchise mode as well. In the last 2 and final comments are from Garage TV. The first one says, first off, I love the videos. Don't agree with Narena coming back, as he hasn't been that good. Also, with bad chemistry in the AHL, you've been stunting your own players' growth potential. And yeah, the AHL has been a little bit of an issue with growth and all that, but like, to be honest, I don't really know if I care at this stage, to be honest, because we do have like only like 8 seasons left of this. A lot of these guys are probably fringe NHL defenders anyways, like DeVoe is a depth defenseman, Janicki, and a lot of them aren't really going to pan out at this point in time either anyways. So yes, we've been stunting some growth and all that in the system in a way, but it's not like it's going to be a huge issue going forward unless we start to suffer retirements in the NHL and that type of thing. But I do think our top prospects are getting a chance, and hopefully the guys that we drafted like this last year, like Peterman for example, somehow pans out and becomes a good defenseman for us. Obviously, the defenseman we just recently drafted as well, the 73 overall defenseman, which is right here in Carlotti. Hopefully he gets some good development as well. Obviously, if these guys aren't developing right away, then maybe we can make adjustments. But these 23 and above year olds, I don't really care too much that they're going to develop or not, because they basically could still be a useful defenseman in the NHL, even as a 74 overall. So it's not a huge issue in my opinion. But I don't agree with what you're saying about not bringing back Narena, but that's okay, because like I said, it's good to have kind of different opinions on things. So I do like that you at least have a different kind of a challenging approach to what you're saying about not bringing back Narena. He says he hasn't been that good, but I kind of disagree with that. I think he's actually been really good here. He's been good in terms of the regular season. His playoff numbers may be a little bit lackluster last year, but I don't think it's like his salary is going to strap us down that much. And like I said, he could end up being retiring soon too, because his potential has dropped as well. So I don't think it's that bad, but obviously if he starts to drop off a lot, maybe it looks bad. But at the same time, like, I just want to have our defensive core being a little bit more solid, because I feel like if we didn't bring him back, our offense might have a little bit of sacrifice to it. Hutton and stuff like that eventually could even take a top 4 spot at some point, but right now I just don't think obviously he's ready to take that jump. So having Narena here for like that solidity purpose, I think is why I brought him back to this team. But I think it should make us stronger having him in the lineup. Obviously it's going to suck if he starts to drop off just like Ristolainen and Kolarz, but that's what happens when you get to this point in franchise mode anyways. And finally, Garage also says, also would have kept Hennessy and just lowered the dollar amount. So he would have kept Hennessy. Now, this one's kind of an interesting one, because there is obviously, like, there was a realistic argument for bringing back Hennessy, I think. But at the same time, I feel like he could have strapped us down more so in cap than Arena, maybe in a way. Just because we technically have replacements already anyways. Like, we need to get Dunham more ice time at some point anyways. Like, he's going to be that guy, basically, that Hennessy was last season. We do need to also free up cap space for future years too, like Cashman's a pending UFA at the end of the year, Rick Kim's a UFA at the end of the year as well. So by letting go of Hennessy, it gives us a chance to potentially re-sign those guys, which I think is important for these last few years of the franchise mode as well. So I think it was okay to get rid of Hennessy, but obviously it's a pretty big blow to the offense. He only played 2 years here, but he was definitely a pretty effective player. But I'm hoping that obviously Rick Kim could just continue to contribute, Peterson can continue to contribute, and then hopefully Dunham can build off what was a really solid season in the AHL last year, and not the best playoffs, but this is going to be his first NHL season, so him getting top 6 ice time I think could definitely be pretty good for his growth. But with that said, I think we're ready to get into the season sim. I do want to actually take a look at what Rick Kim and Cashman are already asking for. I don't know if I will give him an extension yet. Wow. Okay, I did not expect Rick Kim to be asking for that much right now. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how Rick Kim does this year. But this guy thinks he could be the highest paid player on the team. He thinks he's the Mikko Rantanen of this team apparently. But $13.85 million for 8 years is way too much for me to give at this point in time, because that would probably take almost all our cap space left. And then Cashman is actually not asking for that bad of a contract, but for a third line center, it is kind of expensive. So I think we might have to wait till the offseason to make those type of decisions, but we might end up losing some interesting players in the next year or so. But hopefully we can win another Stanley Cup with the roster we have and not have to worry too much about obviously bringing those guys back necessarily right now. So anyways, with that said, I think we're ready to get into simulating. I don't want to do any season goals, but I'm hopeful that guys like Ristolainen, Staubitz, and also Narena don't drop off too hard this season. I don't think their production will, but I think their overall could definitely drop off a bit if their potential already has dropped off a bit. So I am a little bit scared about that, but let's go through the preseason and see who's going to end up being our backup goalie to start the season. And then the other one will probably get sent down likely. Is that what I want to do? Who was the depth option I was going to call up again? Let me go to roster moves. There was a guy I was going to call up in, so I sent a goalie down, I think. Or I could keep both goalies up here for now and then call up Patrick when we need a physical presence or something. Yeah, you know what? I'll keep both goalies up here, I think. Might as well have a 3-headed goalie system. Giantuk could obviously get the majority of the starts, and then the backups could kind of duel it out throughout the season as well. But I do want to see what they could do in the preseason as well. Okay, what does the coach say about our roster? Let's actually go preseason and do our focus here. And let's just do 5-on-5 focus, because I think that's always a good thing to do, is 5-on-5 focused. And then for season goal, let's see. He says that we're good enough to compete for the cup again this season. So he thinks we can make it to the Stanley Cup Finals again this year. So it's kind of interesting because the last 2 years we've made it to the conference finals. Could this be the year we make it back to the finals again? Or are we going to have a little bit of a lackluster season by comparison? I'm not too sure on that. Also, this coach is not the best fit here anymore. He's like a 59% scheme fit, I think it was. So I am a little bit worried that our team might under-simulate because of that. But obviously, if we need to make adjustments in the coaches, we will. But right now, this coach has been able to do well for us. He's won us a Stanley Cup in that. So we might as well hold on to him as the head coach. But let's go through the preseason and see which backup goalie is going to start off the season as the backup. And it will probably go like 25 games before we changed backup goaltenders or something like that. I'm not too sure exactly, but so far we're having a good preseason, which doesn't really matter too much. But 7-1 in our 8 preseason games. I'm kind of worried that Rick Kim's going to have a career year this year, though. If he has a career year, that's going to be kind of problematic just because of the fact that we have to re-sign him this offseason. But let's go to our player stats from the preseason and see how the goalies did. Looks like Mathers had a fantastic preseason in 4 games, but I'm not too sure about Harakala. Rick Kim led in points in the preseason. Only 1 goal for a sniper is kind of strange, but 8 points. So, yeah, I feel like Rick Kim's going to break out this season, which is not ideal, especially for the cap space. Like, the only way we could potentially afford him that much money is if all 3 of our big guys retired or something like that, I feel like. But goaltending, both goalies actually showed up really well in the preseason. Harakala had no losses, had a .923 save percentage and a 2.19 goals against, and Mathers had a .937. Of course, they had to make it tough for me to make this decision. They're both backup goalies. I guess we'll start with Mathers, considering he's the younger of the 2 options. But yeah, both those goalies played fantastic. So obviously Gionta is going to come back in because Gionta is the main goalie here. But if obviously Gionta gets injured, hopefully these 2 young goaltenders could do well for us because that wouldn't be a bad option either. But yeah, we'll take Harakala out. Harakala will come back into the lineup probably. I'm going to try and think of when I want to put him back in. Let's see. Let's look at the calendar here. Maybe after every month I flip the goaltenders. That actually might not be a bad idea. So we go like 1 month. So we go October basically with Mathers as the backup. Then we go the entirety of November with Harakala as the backup. We go to December with Mathers in. I think that's a good way of doing it. And then hopefully they don't drop off too much and complain about ice time or something like that. But I think it's a good way to get those backup goalies, like basically their roles in and see how they're doing. Obviously, if one of the 2 goalies takes over completely in player stats, then we could obviously have the other one scratched for a while. But I think it's a good little thing for us to have 3 different goalies because then when we get to the playoffs, we could run one of them if one of them's playing bad. And like if Gionta's having a really bad playoffs, we could easily run like somebody else instead. So let's go through the first month with Mathers as the backup, and we'll see how we do in our first month of action. I think that's all we want to do before the start of the season, right? I think so. All right, let's see what this team does in its first month of action. We should be pretty good, though, this year, because I think our forward group is still just as good as it was last year, even though we're losing Hennessy. Our defensive core is pretty strong. Our goaltending should be strong. I don't think there's really too much weakness. Other than, like I said, the coach is a little bit of a risk, but okay, that's not a great way to start off the year. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. Matej Kolarz has been injured with a fractured jaw. He's out till November 2nd, so it's not too long term, but it is a top player on our top line, so hopefully we could stay healthy as the rest of this goes on, but that's not great to see Kolarz going down. But at least he's not the old man on the team, because if he was the oldest guy on the team, I'd feel concerned that he might get injury prone, but let's see, last game of the month is against Colorado, and we have Kolarz returning, which is great to see. Who is playing top line? Bure. It's going to be interesting to see how guys like Bure do as a depth option again. Because Bure has been kind of here for a long time, even though he's been more of a career AHLer. All right, 4-4-1 to start the season. Not the strongest start in our first 9 games. I don't actually really want to go back and keep changing goaltenders, to be honest, but Mathers so far has an .897, but he has a good goals against. I don't really know if I want to keep going back and forth because or else you guys are going to see player stats and all of that, and I don't really want to see player stats either, so Let's take Mathers out for a little bit, get Harikala in for a month, and then I don't know if I'm going to keep on alternating or what. I just don't really want to take a look at any player stats so far this season. I got to find a way to make sure I don't see that, because I don't want to get spoiled till the end of the year. All right, let's go through November, see if we could win more games with Harikala as the backup. If we need to, we'll make some line adjustments, but let's see how this team does this month. So far, it's been a little bit on the inconsistent point, and Rick Kim has been now injured with a sprained ankle. He's out till November the 18th, so that's not really that good for Rick Kim considering he's in a contract year, especially if he wants to get paid big bucks. He doesn't want to be getting injured too much. There's a nice little winning streak so far. Shootout loss, it's still a point. We don't need to have a perfect season this year, because we could have an average season, make the playoffs just barely, and win a Stanley Cup. So I don't care too much if we're a President's Trophy winning team this year or not. All right, so we got to get Rick Kim back in. I always forget that he's a center first and foremost, because we've had him on the right wing for most of his career at this point in time. Let me actually stop the sim because I can't see what's going on. There you go. Now we stopped it. Hey, we're still on a pretty good stretch here. Yeah, we only have one loss in our last little while, and that was in a shootout. So this is a pretty good month of us in November. So maybe Harikala is the guy still to keep in that backup role, at least right now. There's another loss, but it's in a shootout again. Looks like we're having some pretty good defensive games too. Like, this team might be actually strong defensively in a lot of these games. But of course, after I said that, we lost 6-4. But maybe New Jersey's good. 15-6-3. So that's a pretty damn good month. Let me see. What could I do to make sure we don't see any player stats here? I just want to go to edit lines. So let me put my face on the screen, even though you guys hate my face probably. And let me go to edit lines. There you go. And see any player stats. Boom. And actually, I should probably... Now I'm going to have to do that multiple times. And that's the only thing. How did Harikala do his backup? Okay, wow. Harikala has definitely shown that he wants to be that backup. 933. Last year he had a 922, so I don't blame him for being this good right now. Wow. A 933, huh? Mathers had lost his 2 games only. He had a 2.54, so they had a good goals against, but his save percentage wasn't there. But it was a very short window. Like, his only 2 games he played this season. He had an 850 in the first game, but his second game he had a 931. So we are a good defensive team regardless of what goal he is in, it seems like. What do we want to do here? I guess we could go another half month with Harikala. And actually, we'll go another half month with Mathers. And then we'll go back to Harikala for the other half. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this, just because it does kind of suck having to keep on going back and forth between edit lines and then also the calendar. But let's go back to this again. And let's go to the 16th. See how Mathers does, if Mathers could get some good production done. But it seems like our goaltending, regardless of who we're putting in, is doing decent. So we are losing a lot more games in extra frames, it seems like, as well than regulation. There's Dallas Corrado going down with an injury in the AHL. It's at least not a terrible injury. Sprained ankle. Let's see, Vegas, 5-4 loss. That's our first regulation loss in quite some time. And Kai Narena has been injured. And I know there's going to be people, probably not necessarily Garage, but there's going to be some people in the comments that think at least that I shouldn't have resigned Narena because of this injury. But at least it's only until December 22nd. So it's not long term, but we do lose our offensive defenseman for a little bit. But we're still winning games without him, which is a good thing to see. And now Cashman has been injured with an upper body injury too. So apparently upper body injuries are contagious. And now we've lost 2 guys in a row. So our injuries are starting to pile up here a little bit this season, which is not a great thing. Let's go here. Was it Peterson that we wanted to take out? Yeah, it was Peterson. Yeah, because Dallas Corrado is the younger guy. So we'll get Dallas Corrado back into that top line left wing spot, and that should be good. Let's go back to this again. And we'll obviously, once these guys are back from injury and stuff like that, we'll change the goalies when they get back from injury, just because it'll make it a bit easier without me having to put my face on the screen. So Winnipeg, 3-0 loss. We're on a little bit of a losing streak, but you could definitely say it's probably the injuries that are doing it. So not going to be worried too much. Let's get Cashman back in. Bure was playing center, which obviously is not a natural position for him, so maybe that's definitely a factor in those losses. But let's get Cashman back in here. And we will change our goaltender from Mathers, who was backup. He's on an 887. His goals against actually is pretty good, but his save percentage, not very good. He's played 3 games, has had 2 bad games out of those 3 games. I don't blame the guy because he's in his first season, but Harakala is looking like he wants to be that backup for the season at least. And he doesn't want to lose that backup role, it seems like. All right, let's go to the end of December and see if we can win some more games here, because our team is starting to get a little bit more healthy, which is now fully healthy, I think, because Narena's back too. So hopefully that gives us another boost from the back end a bit. Did I even address our defensive core last episode? I must have. Or maybe I didn't even address our defense last episode. I don't even remember, to be honest. But let me get Narena back in here. And it has to go like that. Mahalik was scratched. I don't even know if I addressed the defense in the start of this episode like I was supposed to. Oops. Maybe I did. Maybe I did. Something looks strange, though, because I thought it was supposed to look a different way, but maybe not. Trying to think of how I could get some of these younger guys more ice time. +5. Let's keep it for now like this. We have a lot of top 4 defensemen. That's one thing that I do agree with, that maybe we could have let go of Narena, but at the same time, I didn't want to make our defense too weak. So, let's see. Seattle win. Toronto win as well in overtime and shootouts. Okay, and then we lose in a shootout. 21-11-5 at January the 1st. That's pretty solid. We are in a first wildcard spot. We're only 4 points up on the Wild, so the Central Division is quite tight because literally there's only 8 points separating the Blackhawks, who are in the second last place, and the Blues, who are in first place. So it is a bit of a war zone, but so far at least we're off to a good start. So we just don't want to fall off too hard, obviously, if we do start losing some games this season. So let's keep Harakala as the backup. I think the rest of the season, Mathers could come back in at some point. I hope he's not going to lose morale. If he starts to lose morale, I'll put him back in. But I think Harakala has been proving himself to be that guy. So let's go through January, see what we're like at that point. If we are losing a bunch of games, maybe we'll make some adjustments. But so far, this team hasn't been too inconsistent. Like, we do have a lot of losses in the shootout and stuff like that, but it seems like we're winning a lot of games in regulation. We're strong defensively, and we're scoring a lot of goals too, especially as of late. So that is good to see. As Hunwick has been injured with injured ribs, so we'll go replace player on that. Does suck considering he's one of our younger defensemen. We lost to Chicago, beat the Caps. Elliot DeVoe's been injured in the AHL, so yeah, there's a lot of injuries happening this season, but at least it seems like most of the injuries aren't too long-term. Knock on wood here. But we got Ottawa next. Let's see if we can beat them. We do, 7-4. And Ristolainen has been injured with a sore shoulder. I believe that might be his first career injury, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go replace player on that, but Ristolainen being out with an injury is something I don't think I've seen at all in his career. So if that's his first injury, that would suck. But that is going to give a chance to Peterson now as the top line center. We'll get Cashman as the second liner. Heatley could go as the third liner for the time being. But damn, that's a pretty substantial injury here in the season. At least it's not too long term, but could affect the winners of certain awards if he's up there in points again. Let's continue to simulate. We do lose to Utah. Elliot DeVoe is back in the AHL. That seems like a fun name to say for some reason, Elliot DeVoe. Sounds like I don't know, like he sounds like a, trying to think of what he sounds like. Maybe like a spy or something. It's like almost like James Bond, but it's Elliot DeVoe. I don't know. I don't even know what the hell I'm trying to say at this point. Oh boy. Okay. There you go. That's good. It's interesting to see Peterson as a top line center, considering he's been always living in Ristolainen's shadow, so to speak. And game against the Kings, Ristolainen's back. That's good news. Not too long term of an injury. Hopefully he stays healthy. We'll get him back in here. Hopefully these guys aren't going to drop off too hard. I swear, if these guys start dropping off really crazy fast, I'm going to be kind of sad because I don't want them to retire, to be honest, at this stage. So we did lose to the Kings, but we are 29-14-6. We are third place in the Central Division. We're only still 3 points up on the Blues and 4 points up on the Blackhawks. So this division is still airtight. It's even tighter than it was before, because the Utah Hockey Club are first with 66 points. The Blackhawks are second last place with 60 points. Actually, third last place, I should say, because Dallas is way out of it. But this is a crazy tight division. Yikes. Because if we were in the Pacific Division, we'd be literally in first place right now, which is kind of insane. So this Central is just a war zone. I don't expect it to be anything less than that. Let's continue to simulate. Let's go to the 15th. See if we could win some more games here, because we don't want to lose too much in a row, obviously, because that could hurt us in terms of being in the playoffs or not. Shootout loss, still a point. Win there. I like at least it seems like when we're losing games, for the most part, it seems like it's in the extra frame sort of thing. So that way we're at least getting a point in it, because it does still at least help us with those standings a bit. 34, 15, and 7. We're second place, only 1 point now back. And now the division's starting to kind of take form a little bit, because now we're 9 points up on a wild card spot. So things are looking good. Let's keep on simming. Let's keep on simming. Karlotti was never injured in the AHL, I don't think. We also do have Boris Malkin in the AHL as a goaltender too. So we technically have 4 goalies we could run this year in the postseason, depending if like a goalie's bad or not, which is kind of insane. So we have a lot of goaltenders, and I think obviously Giunta will still be the starter next year, but there's a chance we'll let go of both Mathers and Harakala. Mathers could be back for the AHL maybe, but I'm not too sure about Harakala. Let's go replace Per on that. Dackel, what position did Dackel play? Oh, he was definitely a center. I could tell because 2 of mine is not a center. There you go. Dackel was put into defense, my guess. Oh my goodness, these line screens kind of glitch around a little bit. I didn't even press Y, so I don't even know how that even happened. But yeah, Dackel got put on defense because of those injuries. So we gotta wait, I guess. Actually, wait a sec. We can go to forwards. We go to this, and we'll put Dackel in all lines. And then we'll go here, and then we'll put in Tuomainen. There we go. Now we have at least everybody in the right spots, I think. Hopefully. Honestly, don't even know. The AHL, to be honest, at this point, like I don't care as much about it as I used to. All right, but 37, 18, and 7. We're still second place, still 1 point back of the Minnesota Wild, who are actually second place in the entire league. So, yeah, we're very good right now at this point in time, so there's not too much to worry about. Let's go to a day past the deadline. I don't know if I should look at any AI trades or not, because at this point, there's not really a lot of super important players out there, potentially. So, we have lost 2 games in regulation in a row. That kind of sucks a bit, but so far looks good with this team. Should I take a look at any trades just to see if any former players got dealt? You know what? We'll take a look just for fun. So let me go here. Let me not look at who's leading us in points at all. I know this is kind of weird what I do with this part, but I got to do this. There you go. Boom. And boom. All right, in terms of trades, let's see. Was any former player dealt, or did I just waste my time going over here? Oh, Mark Degg was dealt to Tampa Bay. He was, I guess, signed by New Jersey in the season and then dealt to Tampa. So Tampa has Mark Degg now. Anybody else? Anybody else that I remember from our old teams? Doesn't look like it right now, at least. I don't even know if I know any of these guys other than that. Okay, looks like a bunch of generated guys and Dag. So nothing too crazy. We'll go back here a bit, and I'll go back to the calendar, and boom. All right. Why is this taking so long? Thank you. Okay, let's continue to simulate the rest of the season and get it done with. We should be a playoff team unless we continue to fall off randomly, but so far looking good this year. Potentially another 50-win season. Like I said, I don't think it matters too much about where we finish in terms of getting into the playoffs. If we finish in like the wildcard spot, it's not a huge issue. And that's why you have goaltenders in your system, and that's actually way more substantial than I initially thought. So Jason Giunta, our starting goaltender, has been injured with a hip pointer. He's out till May 21st, so his season's nearly done unless we go to the Cup Finals this year. Which means the young goaltending is going to have to win us a Stanley Cup this year, or get us at least to a conference finals before Giunta takes over. So it's going to be Mathers and Harakala leading us for the rest of the season and for the start of the playoffs. That's pretty bad. We do also have Malkin, who is ready to take up a job in the NHL too. He's actually been pretty good in the AHL. So we have 3 goalies all listed as backups that could fight to be that starting guy in the playoffs while Gianta's out. It's a good opportunity for them to showcase their skills, but man, does that suck. Man, does that suck. Like, Gianta, I don't know how good he was playing. We'll definitely take a look at his stats at the end of the season, but that's a pretty big blow. I mean, he hasn't been necessarily the best playoff goaltender at times, too, so maybe it's a good thing. Maybe having a cheese goalie instead will win us a Stanley Cup instead, so I'm okay with it, but I was not expecting that long of an injury for Gianta. At least we almost have our playoff spot already locked in, which is good, but wow. We are now first place in our division, which is nice. Maybe that's not a good thing, no. I don't want to be a first-round exit this year. I want to make it to the conference finals again, at least. Seems like we're playing still pretty good defensive hockey, though, even without Gianta. Like, 3 of these games are only games where we're allowed 1 goal. And then against the Flames, we allowed 3. So I think regardless of who we play in net, we'll be good, which is nice. And like I said, hopefully in the playoffs, these young goalies can still do good. Look at that, another shutout win. Young goalies are proving themselves here late in the season. Hopefully they continue to do that as we lose 2 games in a row, of course, after I said that. I always seem to jinx these things. 2 last games of the month, shootout win, and another shutout win. Damn, who's picking up these shutouts? Do you think it's Mathers or is it Harakala? I feel like it's Harakala, considering he's the older guy, but good to see both goalies doing well. We have clinched a playoff spot, and we are currently the 2nd best team in the league, and we're kind of fighting for a President's Trophy right now, which is not what I was expecting after what the season has done to us injury-wise. But let's go through 3 games. We got Ottawa, the Islanders, and the Kings all on the road. A lot of road games then this season. The first one we win 7-2. Good defense, good offense. The Islanders, we shut them out as well. Damn, a lot of shutouts down the stretch from this team. And there's another win too. We might honestly win the President's Trophy this year if Detroit falls off, which is kind of scary. Vancouver, another win. Oh my goodness. And Florida has fired their head coach, Roman Krejci. Columbus is also a win. We have, in fact, won the President's Trophy. I was not expecting to win the President's Trophy this year. 53, 21, and 8. It was a bit of an inconsistent start. A lot of shootout losses, but this team is a President's Trophy winner. Despite missing Ristolainen for a few games, missing our number 1 goaltender as well. That's kind of insane. So let's go through some stats here. Let me actually go to, let's see, I don't want to look at player stats at all. Just making sure you guys don't see anything. Where the heck am I going? There you go. That's where I want to go. Okay. So there is some stats. I mean, we do see who's leading us in points at the end of the season, but we do have to find out where we finish in terms of everything this season. So first and foremost, we know we won the President's Trophy. We won it by 5 points over Seattle and Detroit. Wow. Okay. Goals for per game. We were actually not the craziest offensive team this season, so we may not have a lot of 100-point guys, but 3.43 goals for per game, top 10 in the league. I'll take it. We don't necessarily need to be number 1 in everything like we were. Was it last season or 2 seasons ago? Goals against per game. We were the best defensive team in the league, and that's even after missing Gianta for the last little bit of the season too. So this team only allowed 200 goals, and the next closest allowed 226. So our defensive core, very strong. Our goaltending strong. I guess our forwards are good defensively too, but that's pretty impressive. Power play percentage. Our power play was just outside of the top 10. Or actually tied for 10th, I think, around with Detroit. Interesting. So not the best power play in the world, but that's okay. Penalty kill was also not the best either. So we were a good defensive team 5-on-5, but our penalty kill was not that great. Huh. We have a little bit of underwhelming stats aside from our goals against per game, so I feel like maybe we're going to be better in the playoffs all around. I honestly don't know. Our team probably shouldn't have won the President's Trophy based on some of these stats, but apparently we did. We also scored 10 more shorthanded goals this year, so that's pretty impressive. 32-9 on home ice, 21, 12, and 8 on the road. So not strong on the road, but very good on home ice. And 8-2 in our last 10 games. All right. So an interesting season for us to win the President's Trophy. Let's take a look at some stats here. So in terms of centers, Ristolainen had only 88 points, so he definitely dropped off a bit. He only missed one game, so actually wasn't as much as I thought. But a down year for Ristolainen. But he still might have another Selke in his bag at least, but 20 less points than last year. However, he did score 5 shorthanded goals and 6 shorthanded points again, so continues to be a shorthanded threat. He's actually got 27 career shorthanded goals and 42 shorthanded points, which of course he wears number 42, so that's pretty cool. But how was his face-off stats? Very good this year, actually. Better than last year. His takeaways, 94. That might be a little bit too low. I don't know if he's going to win a Selke because of those takeaway numbers, but solid year from Ristolainen at the age of 33. Peterson on 63 points. That's pretty damn solid. 50 points from Cashman in 80 games. I did see a notification he was losing morale because of ice time a bit. So we do need to maybe find a way to get him more ice time. He is a pending free agent, so... And, oh, wow. Okay, I was not expecting that. Maybe it's because our power play kind of struggled. That's probably why. Because Rick Kim as well was not that good this season. 44 points only. He is listed as a first liner, which is kind of surprising. But Rick Kim and Ristolainen dropping off in production that much is not what I was expecting. Almost a 30-point drop-off for Rick Kim in a contract year. That might make him a bit more affordable this offseason. We'll see. But damn. Yeah, I wasn't expecting some of these guys to drop off that much in production. Heatley on 28 points in 82 games. Pretty solid for a fourth line option. Left wing side of things, we got Kolar's on 90 points and a plus 46. So Kolar's outscored Ristolainen in less games too. Kolar's missed 4 games. So that's kind of impressive, but it's probably because he's a bit younger. I'm not too sure. But Kolar's dropped off a little bit in his offense. Not by that much though. We also have Delisle on 47 points in a contract year. Not too bad. He is listed as a second-line forward, which is kind of strange, but eh. Malak on 22 points. Lambert on 21. Bure on 6 assists in 11 games. So when there was that injury to Kolar's in the top 6 and to some other guys, Bure was pretty solid. Bure's not been a bad depth option, to be honest. So I do like that. From a right-wing perspective, we had obviously our captain and Staubitz over 100 points again, so Staubitz didn't slow down at any stretch. He's 35 years old now. Is this the last season of Josiah Staubitz, or does he retire next year? But he's now on 3 straight 100-point seasons. He's definitely been regressing offensively, but we know that he could do a lot in the postseason as well, so what a career it's been for him. He's almost point per game now in his NHL career. Dunham on 50 points after being put in the top 6. That's pretty good, 28 goals. Still listed as a third-line scoring forward, but Dunham is playing good, and he does still have 1 more year left, but he might be a Rookie of the Year candidate. I forgot that he's a rookie this season, so that's cool. Doig on 28 points, that's not bad either. From a defensive standpoint, Narain on 51 points plus 30 in 77 games. Maybe a Norris candidate, maybe not because of the point totals, but still a good year from him. Tulipov was good as well. Great point production, good plus minus, 30 points, plus 26. McCulloch was pretty good, and he was healthy all year. So that's a good response from Mahalik. Hopefully he's good in the playoffs. Bell, 19 points, plus 36. Hutton in his first season, 13 points, plus 27. Hunwick, 9 points, plus 13. And Ackerstrom was plus 1 in 10 games. And then from a goaltending perspective, Gionta was maybe on a Vezina pace this season again. 35, 15, and 6 record, 2 shouts, and 9-13 in a 2.51. But unfortunately, I don't think he's going to win it just because of the lack of games. However, look at our backup goaltenders. This is where I'd like to see our young goalies do it. Mathers had 3 shutouts in 9 games, a 9.45. And Harakala had a 9.14. So if these 2 goalies could do that in the postseason when we don't have Gionta, that's absolutely fantastic from the kids. I don't think I've ever had 3 goalies with almost 3 shutouts and that good of numbers. So something is definitely right with this team. And then, of course, like I was also mentioning, there is Malkin in the AHL who also had a good season and is listed as a backup goalie. So we do have 3 different goalies we could go to if they all struggle before Gionta returns in probably the conference finals if we get there. Because it did say late May, which is kind of late, but both these guys are going to get a big opportunity, which is not a bad thing. Let's take a look at stats around the league, see who did what, just to see the point totals and all that. So the best guy in terms of points, Lou Pacioretty in Detroit. Don't think I've ever seen this guy up there, 111 points. He's been a career-long Red Wing? Yeah, career-long Red Wing. And he's finally up there with his first 100-point season, so that's kind of interesting. Bjorkstrand up there with 108, same with Hopkins, Ustorf, Gorbeshkov. Stelwitz was one of only 6 100-point guys. And there is not going to be a chance because I just saw Larmour's stats, but Stelwitz finishes second in goals behind Larmour as he typically does. So Larmour consistently becomes the craziest goal scorer in the series as he will win his 4th Richard. Stelwitz just misses out on his 3rd, which sucks, but it is what it is. All right. In terms of Selke candidates, let me take a look at this for fun. We're looking at probably Larmour. Wow, Larmour actually might win the Selke and also win the Richard in the same season, which I don't think I've ever seen before. So shout out to that guy in Utah. Maybe Utah has a good chance to win the Cup this year because of that. In terms of defensive numbers, best for points, Bradley Tuisolino. Oh, but he was a minus 24. Shout out to our former offensive defenseman. It looks like Florida must be missing the playoffs this year because of that. His production is starting to drop off. His plus-minus was bad this year. And he's still signed for 3 more years because that no-trade clause kicks in next season. And he's making $21.6 million. Jeez. Sandine Pellica up there in points. Dollywall, Roberts, those type of guys. Norena did finish up there in points, but he's not going to be the winner because of the plus-minus stuff and the point production. But still pretty good year from him. In terms of goalies, the best goalie this season in terms of wins was Shattenkirk in Toronto. Morris was number 2, both over 40 wins. Trenton Spezza was up there as well. Maybe not a Vezina for Trenton Spezza. Lukovic, Kazanov's up there again. Kazanov's not going to win the Vezina this year, though. It looks like he had a bit of a down year. But best save percentage by a starter is going to be Trenton Spezza. So the year that we're the best defensive team, we have 3 crazy good goaltending stats. Our former goaltender is maybe going to be a Vezina favorite. That's actually hilarious. All right. I mean, I don't mind it. And look at that. Yeah, Gionta and Spezza both here at that. So, yeah, I think Gionta was on pace to maybe be it, but it's probably going to go to Spezza. So, that's kind of cool to see. In terms of rookie skaters, the best rookie this season is going to be Keeler in San Jose with 69 points. But Dunham finishes top 5 in rookie points. He's not going to win it. They might end up giving it to Riddle because of the plus 18, but looks like it was a pretty good year for rookies, especially the top guys. All right. So there is all of that. The question now is, who are we going to be playing in the first round of playoffs? Is it a team we could beat? It will be the Nashville Predators. I don't know if we've ever played Nashville before. I feel like we never have. But that's kind of interesting. So we take on Nashville in round 1. They went 45, 30, and 7. Let's do a regular season comparison and then take a look at their lineup. And maybe their player stats from the regular season too while we're at it. But in terms of this, obviously we finished first place in the Central. They were the last team to make it in the Central, so one of the wild card spots. They scored almost around the same amount of goals per game as us, 3.38, 3.43. Obviously we're better defensively, but they're pretty strong defensively, 2.76. Which is the second best, actually, in the Central Division, apparently. In terms of power play percentage, we were better by 2%. Their penalty kill was worse than ours as well by 0.6%. Interesting. All right. Let's take a look at their lineup. Like I said, I don't think we've ever played them in the postseason before. If we did, it was quite a while ago. So I don't remember who they might have in their lineup. I don't know if they have any superstar players because I don't feel like I've seen anybody up there in point production for them. So, they have Will Smith. They also have Radoslav Holtan and Louis Boudreau. I don't even remember Louis Boudreau, but former second overall pick, almost a decade ago. Interesting. Second line, Jared Cassian, John Standard, and Zachary Zanata, the double Z. Probably puts you to sleep. Number 3, Milan Stejskal. They also have Braylon Bembridge and Pat LaRose. And a fourth line, Graham Warner, Oscar Halvardson. I do remember this guy from somewhere. And then they also have Sergei Sugablov. So they do have some pretty solid depth on the left wing side. Down the middle, they have some pretty solid depth. Maybe a bit weak on that second line. And their right side's a bit weaker. But pretty good forward group, I would say, for this team. From a defensive standpoint, they have Philippe Latendresse. They also have Rick Shore. Second pairing, Sergei Kalinin and Yuri Didanov. And a top 6 pairing of Mohamed Swanson and Tero Vitanen. So that defensive core is a little bit weak, but it's still not like super bad. Like you don't see any 75 overalls in it, so it's pretty good, I guess. And then from a goaltending standpoint, Nikita Tulipov. I do think we had a Nikita Tulipov on our team too, so that confused me for a second. But I do think I remember seeing this goaltender up there for Vezinas at one point. Maybe not. No, he's never won a Vezina, but I feel like he was definitely a guy that could have won one. And then they also have Columbe as the backup. Scratch, they have Kirill Leonov, Wilson Rourke, and Ian McAllister. Oh, good, Ian McAllister. I do remember this dude from the Ducks. Yeah, I remember him. So this is not the strongest Preds team, but it's still pretty good. I don't know how much playoff experience they have. Holton was that franchise guy that just went first overall a few years ago. I almost forgot about that. So the Preds, I don't know how much they've made the playoffs. They did make it last year, apparently. Has Boudreau been a career National player? He has. Who is the oldest guy that's been a career Pred? So I can see how long they've made the playoffs or how many times they've made the playoffs. Let's see. Stejko has been a long time one. LaRose. Has LaRose been with Nashville his entire career? No, he hasn't. Warner? No. What about Halvardson and stuff? No. This guy has, but he's only 22. Latendresse? Nope. Latendresse was in Chicago apparently at one point. Okay, looks like the oldest guy here that's been with them a long time is Tulipov. So if we look at Tulipov's stats, how many times has Nashville made the playoffs in the series? 2 times? 1 time actually only. God damn. Okay, 1 time only. So they made the playoffs last year for the first time in a very long time. Because if you look at Tulipov, he's been literally with this Preds team since 2030-31, so the last 10 years. And he's only made the playoffs 1 time. So we definitely have the experience on our side. But is it enough? Because Holton definitely could be a difference maker. Will Smith, Boudreau. Like, that's a pretty solid top line. But I definitely think we have the experience. I think we could win. But obviously it depends if we continue our good defensive play and good goaltending from the regular season or not. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the first round of the playoffs against the Nashville Predators as we look to get to the second round and hopefully beyond that as well. Sizing them below, and I'll see you guys next time.